working to connect a region of over 600 new bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Maricar Velasco and welcome to ASEAN in Focus, delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region. On today's headlines, the death toll in the onslaught of tropical depression Usman has climbed to 140. Australia's FM says that a Saudi woman who fled Saudi Arabia should be helped by countries like Australia, who are in a position to potentially provide her with support. Thai immigration police says the father of an 18-year-old Saudi woman who fled her family denies abuse and forced marriage. Three hulking Chinese warships docked in Cambodia Wednesday for a 4-day visit as Beijing parades its naval prowess alongside its staunch Southeast Asian ally. China is the largest investor in Cambodia and has pumped billions into the economy while asking few questions about its abysmal rights record. Cambodian Defense Ministry spokesman Chum Sochiet told media the three warships, the longest being 180 meters or 590 feet, stopped at Cambodia's Sihanoukville port for a visit to January 12. He said the goal of the visit is to boost ties and military cooperation, especially between the navies from both countries, dismissing suggestions that the display was about touting Chinese influence. He said the Chinese Navy delegate would meet with Cambodian military commanders and Defense Minister Tia Ban during the visit. Rumors that China has been building a base off Cambodia's southwest coast have been swirling for years, but reached new levels after Hun Sen said U.S. Vice President Mike Pence sent him a letter about it in November. The strongman leader, who has been in power for more than 3 decades, said Cambodia would not allow foreign military bases on its soil. In return for its long-standing support, Cambodia has proved a reliable ally among the ASEAN Southeast Asian bloc regarding disputes with China over its activities in the South China Sea. The death toll in the onslaught of tropical depression Usman has climbed to 140. In its 6 a.m. Thursday update, the National Risk Reduction and Management Council said the fatalities are from Mimaropa, consisting of Mindoro, Marinduque, Romblon, and Palawan, Bicol, and Eastern Visayas. In the same report, 28 are still reported missing and 105 are injured. Of the above-mentioned figures, only 8 of the fatalities and 42 injured have been confirmed, while the rest are still being subjected to verification, according to the update signed and released by NDRRMC Executive Director Ricardo Halad. Also damaged infrastructure and agriculture for Calabarzon, consisting of Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, Rizal, and Quezon, Mimaropa, Bicol, and Eastern Visayas, is placed at 5.41 billion pesos. The figure is broken down into 1.94 billion pesos for agriculture and 3.46 billion pesos for infrastructure. Usman has also damaged a total of 17,482 houses and 1,916 totally and 15,566 partially in Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Bicol, and Eastern Visayas. Panic is gripping thousands of Rohingya Muslim refugees living in no man's land on the Myanmar-Bangladesh border, with daily clashes between Myanmar security forces and ethnic Rakhine insurgents. Hundreds of thousands of Rohingya Muslims have fled Myanmar since a military crackdown started in 2017, most to sprawling refugee camps in Bangladesh. But many have been living in limbo on the border, unwilling to enter the camps or return home. They are now caught on the sidelines of fighting between Myanmar troops and the Arakan Army, a militant group seeking more autonomy for Western Rakhine State's Buddhist majority population.
মিয়ানমারের ভিতরে তারা মগবুদ্ধ আরকান আর্মি ওখানে মিয়ানমার সেনাবাহিনীর মধ্যে তারা খুব যুদ্ধ চলতেছে এই জন্য এইটা আমাদের রোহিঙ্গার উপর এলিগেশন দিচ্ছে এই জন্য আমরা রোহিঙ্গারা মানে যারা নন মুসলিম আছে 0 পয়েন্টে আছে তারা খুব আতঙ্কিত
Myanmar troops last week set up security camps and bunkers along the border after fighting saw 13 police killed. Some of the fortifications are directly adjacent to a border fence running alongside a stream and overlook shacks erected by an estimated 4,500 displaced Muslims living in the narrow strip of land. Amnesty International on Monday accused India of disregarding international law after a Rohingya family was deported to Myanmar, where the military is accused of genocide against the stateless Muslim minority. The family of 5, who had been in prison in India's northeastern Assam state since 2013, was handed over to Myanmar authorities on Thursday, the second such deportation in just months after 7 men were returned in October. The United Nations expressed concerns over the forcible repatriation of the Rohingya, while rights groups warn New Delhi was putting the community at serious risk by returning them to Myanmar, where for decades the minority has been targeted in violent pogroms by security forces. The Rohingya are despised by many in Buddhist-majority Myanmar, which refuses to recognize them as citizens and falsely labels them as Bengali illegal immigrants. Australia's FM says that a Saudi woman who fled Saudi Arabia should be helped by countries like Australia, who are in a position to potentially provide her with support. Since then, the UN has announced its decision to recognize Rahaf Mohammed Al Qunun as a legitimate refugee and asked Australia to take her in.
Well, I'm not responsible for her visa per se. I think the most important thing is a young woman in these very, very difficult circumstances is supported appropriately through the UN processes, and that countries like Australia, who are in a position potentially to provide her with support, are able to work from that point once those are finalised and determine what the next steps are. Actively intervene, I suspect, is not our role at this point in time, because as I understand it, through the Thai authorities, she is now being supported by the UN through the UN processes which are set out. As they proceed, countries like Australia and any other countries to whom she has made application or of whom she has asked support will consider the outcomes of those.
The decision marks a significant victory for the 18-year-old who is currently in Bangkok, where she says Thai authorities attempted to block her from traveling to Australia to claim asylum. Qunun has documented her bid to flee her allegedly abusive family with minute-by-minute social media updates. Her plight shot to public attention when she barricaded herself in a Bangkok airport hotel room to avoid deportation and shared dozens of fearful but defiant messages online insisting on her right to asylum. Video footage posted on Twitter by a Saudi human rights activist appeared to show a Saudi official complaining that Thai authorities should have confiscated Qunun's smartphone. He said in the Arabic language, when she arrived, she opened a new Twitter account and her followers grew to 45,000 in one day. It would have been better if they had confiscated her mobile instead of her passport, he added. The media was unable to contact Saudi authorities for comments on the footage. Saudi Arabia has some of the world's toughest restrictions on women, including a guardianship system that allows male family members to make decisions on behalf of female relatives. Meanwhile, Thai immigration police says the father of the 18-year-old Saudi woman who fled her family denies abuse and forced marriage.
นะว่าเขาก็มีความประสงค์อยากจะรับลูกเนี่ยกลับไปบ้านนะครับแล้วก็ขณะนี้ภรรยาเขาก็ป่วยหนักนะเพราะว่าก็ทราบเรื่องลูกสาวแล้วก็ไม่สบายใจอันนี้ก็เป็นเรื่องภายในครอบครัวนะครับก็คุณพ่อเขามีพูดบ้างนะครับคุณพ่อเขามีพูดบ้างว่าลูกเขามีอะไรฮะเขามีลูกถึง10 คนนะฮะที่ทราบเนี่ยเขามีลูกถึง10 คนนะก็เขาบอกว่าลูกสาวอาจจะน้อยใจบ้างอะไรบ้างนะครับนะเขาพูดคุยฮะทางคุณพ่อก็ยืนยันว่า เขาดูแลลูกอย่างดีไม่มีการบังคับขู่เข็นไม่มีการทำร้ายนะครับนะฮะคุณพ่อเขายืนยันว่าไม่ใช่นะครับนะคุณพ่อเขาบอกว่าไม่ได้บังคับให้มีการแต่งงานที่เขาบอกเมื่อกี้นะครับ
Agunun's appeal also comes as Saudi Arabia is still under pressure after the murder of Saudi dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi raised troubling questions about repression in the kingdom under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The Saudi teens via a plea forced real and quick international action and put Saudi Arabia under scrutiny once again. Whether Australia will ultimately grant Agunun asylum, though, remains to be seen. ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
Hong Kong, Japan, Brunei, Taiwan, kahit saan sa Asia, France, Germany o Italy, saan man sa Europa.
Ikaw ba ay isang OFW? Alam mo ba ang iyong mga karapatan? Subaybayan ang gabay ng OFW International tuwing Lunes at Sabado alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng gabi dito lang sa DCEC Radyo Agila.
Subaybayan ang mas pinalakashang saganang mamamayan. Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga.
Welcome back. The drop in international petroleum prices is seen to give the Philippine peso some lift during the year's first semester, but Fitch Solutions expect the local unit to be in depreciation mode beyond that, ending 2019 at about 54.13 against the greenback. To date, the local currency is trading at the 52 level against the U.S. dollar. In a study dated January 9, the research firm said the local unit is generally seen to be weak this year due to deficits in the country's current account, or CA, and trade balance, political uncertainties, and negative real interest rates differential with the U.S. It said, however, they expect the weakness to be relatively modest as compared with 2018, helped by the decline in oil prices and growing headwinds to broad dollar strength. The country has been posting CA deficits as it imports more to meet the growing domestic demand due mainly to increased infrastructure investments. Decline of global oil prices also helped the domestic rate of price increases decelerate. Amid the slowdown of inflation in the last 2 months of last year, Fitch Solutions still forecast a 50 basis points increase in the BSP's key rates this year. Relatively, it cited political uncertainties as another factor that is disadvantageous to the peso, citing President Rodrigo Duterte's preference towards China and Chinese investors compared to Western nations. The World Bank on Wednesday reduced its 2019 growth forecast for the Philippines to 6.5% from an earlier estimate of 6.7%, saying the outlook for the global economy has darkened. The Washington-based multilateral lender predicted that annual growth in the Philippines would pick up to 6.6% in 2020 and 2021. It estimated that the country's gross domestic product expanded 6.4% in 2018. The Philippines is seen to remain one of the fastest growing economies in the East Asia and Pacific region this year, outperforming major economies such as China, which is forecast to grow 6.2%, Indonesia 5.2%, Malaysia 4.7%, and Thailand at 3.8%. Indonesian President Joko Widodo said January 8th that traffic congestion in Jakarta and its nearby areas result in annual economic losses of nearly $4.7 billion. According to the National Development Planning Agency, the figure is enough to push the development of alternative transport modes both within and outside Jakarta, especially public transport systems. If accumulated over 5 years, the sum of losses will be enough to fund the construction of a light rail transit and metro line. As many as 9.9 million automobiles, motorbikes, trucks, and other vehicles travel around Jakarta's streets every day. That includes nearly 2 million from nearby cities in West Java and Banten. Each resident in Jakarta is likely to spend an average of 10 years throughout their life caught in traffic. Up to 70% of air pollution comes from vehicles. Indonesia wants to work with other ASEAN countries to strengthen the regional architecture through Indo-Pacific cooperation, Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi said in her annual speech on Wednesday, January 9. The world's largest archipelagic nation aims to focus on maintaining stability, security, and welfare in regions surrounding the Pacific Ocean and Indian Ocean, which it considers a single geostrategic theater. Ms. Retno said at the event attended by foreign ambassadors and diplomats, they must all ensure that the Indian and Pacific Oceans do not become a site of battle for natural resources, regional conflicts, and maritime supremacy. The United States, Japan, Australia, and India have advocated the concept of a free and open Indo-Pacific to augment strategic cooperation among like-minded maritime powers. It involves countries situated within the world's major oceans. However, there has been different interpretations of the concept. The U.S., for instance, envisions wider cooperation with Japan, Australia, and India as a way to contain China, which has been trying to exert greater power over Southeast Asian countries through its multi-trillion-dollar Belt and Road Initiative. Indonesian President Joko Widodo first introduced the country's vision of the concept during the East Asia Summit last November in Singapore. It is based on the key principles of openness, inclusivity, cooperation, dialogue, respect for international law, and ASEAN centrality. ASEAN so far has yet to unite in one voice on the issue and may deliberate in the upcoming foreign ministers' retreat next week in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Ms. Retno, who is Indonesia's first female foreign minister, also said ASEAN must be proactive in responding to developments in the region and become the driver of change. Underlining the importance of stability and security in the South China Sea, she said Indonesia will make sure that the declaration on the conduct of parties, which ASEAN and China settled late last year, can be fully implemented, and an agreement on the code of conduct will be completed within the next 3 years as expected. Indonesia also plans to introduce several initiatives to expand regional partnerships, including the Indonesia South Pacific Forum and Indo-Pacific Maritime Dialogue. Indonesia is juggling between two options as it moves closer to setting regulations on the adoption of electric vehicles. The impending outcome is set to benefit Japanese car giant Toyota or South Korea's Hyundai Motor and European car makers such as BMW. The Joko Widodo administration is throwing its support behind green vehicles as it seeks to reduce the country's reliance on imports of fossil fuel and also tap its abundant nickel reserves. Nickel is a key material for making lithium-ion batteries. Ministers are debating, according to a government source, whether Indonesia should adopt a pure electric vehicle regime from the outset or start first with hybrid electric vehicles, which do not require charging stations as they are powered by a conventional internal combustion engine. Industry Minister Airlangga Hartarto, it is said, prefers a gradual shift by using HEVs. These do not place too heavy a financial burden on the government, which would otherwise have to build charging stations and ensure that power plants have ample capacity to meet an expected surge in demand. More news when ASEAN in Focus returns.
Know the latest news and information here and abroad in Agila Balita. track the latest happenings in the provinces in Aguila Provincia. Be aware of important events in Asia in ASEAN in Focus, and be updated in the biggest news around the world in Eagle News International. Tune into Mata ng Aguila and get the day's headlines and news that are sharp, accurate, and objective. Only here at Net 25.
Hi guys, I'm Ariel.
And I'm Kenneth. And we're your new hosts for The Break Room.
So please watch us every Monday at 7:30 to 8 in the evening. We are one with 25.
Welcome back. Trash-filled waterways are quite a common sight in Indonesia, but a village in the Bekasi Regency of West Java managed to make headlines around the country for letting their water pollution problem get way out of hand, even by the country's lamentably low environmental standards. Recently, images from Pisang Batu River in Palawan Setia village showed the surface of the river to be completely covered with trash, reportedly consisting mostly of discarded plastic waste, organic waste, and even a mattress. The endless layer of trash, dubbed Lautan Sampah, or translated as Sea of Trash by local media, is said to stretch 1.5 kilometers long and be around 50 centimeters deep. According to locals, the river mostly consisted of aquatic plants and mud before the local government cleaned it up last month. After the cleanup, they say all the trash, not theirs, floated downstream and filled up the river. According to a report from Coconuts DOT Co Jakarta, the local government began another cleaning effort after images of the polluted river went viral over the weekend. The village officials said as of Tuesday afternoon, 150 trucks, each with a 2-ton capacity, have carried away the river's trash, which had to be dug out using excavators. The cleanup is reportedly still ongoing to this day. President Rodrigo Duterte asked hotels operating near Manila Bay to ensure that there are enough water treatment facilities established in the area or else risk getting a closure. Duterte made this statement during the Barangay Summit on Peace and Order at the Cuneta Ashidome in Pasay City.
Kaya sabi ko kay Roy Simato, John Simato, pati si John Anyo, you start cleaning the Manila Bay. And it will be, they will start to clean it. Whether they like it or not, lahat itong lagyan ninyong water treatment yung hotel nyo, pag hindi, sirahan ko yan. Huwag mo akong hamunin. You do something about your waste there or otherwise I will close it. Sigurado yan.
In a palace briefing, presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said that the president is likely to issue an executive order for the Manila Bay cleanup. Panelo also said hotels which violated regulations, particularly on the absence or lack of water treatment facilities, may also face closure. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco and I am one with 25.